It's here! Finally, the Evokers are available to play. The Dragthier race is, part and parcel with the class spec combination, and only if you have Dragonflight pre-ordered. But hey, if Dragonflight hasn't done enough to prove that it is worth you getting your hands on it, then Evoker will, which is contradictory because you still have to buy it to try Evoker to see if buying it is worth it. But this is what the video is for. We've done plenty of videos on the Evoker, Devastation and Preservation as well, and this is slightly different. You might think it's a normal guide the way that we do, but it's going to be a little bit more fast-paced, a little bit quick. Get your Evoker ready in everything that's available for pre-patch if you want to pick it up now and get it up to snuff in time for the Dragonflight release, and maybe even do some Mythic Plus and raids up until then. So let's get started with the all you need to know for Evoker. Quick and easy, get it now and go in Dragonflight. Shadowlands rather, but Dragonflight still, it's kind of weird. Let's just hit it. First of all, obviously you'll have to level your Dragthier, and just before, because I've noticed some people having these issues, mostly gonna talk about a few tips here. When you create your Evoker, make sure you've selected your faction beforehand, as opposed to the old style Pandaren type where you could choose after you've created your Pandaren what faction to align. So you kind of have to create it beforehand based on what faction you wanted to go for. So Horde or Alliance, otherwise you might find yourself in the wrong faction. And we know a couple of culprits in our own little community that encountered this issue. So don't be like our little culprits, and thank them for experiencing this issue so you don't have to. Second thing of all, obviously if you do all the quests in Forbidden Reach, which is the starting zone for Evoker, you'll get to 60. However, if you also do the side quest, which one of them that I can recall is with Baby Tuskar or Kid Tuskar or Pup or Cub or I don't know, something. And if you do all of the quests in the Forbidden Reach, you'll actually get to 60 before even leaving the starting zone. If anybody was interested in making sure that they don't have to level too much, or they have to like go through shenanigans of Chromie time leveling or anything like that, or Shadowlands leveling, you don't have to. You'll get to 60 beforehand, and after that you can actually go, and if you keep following the quest line, and if you once you've reached Orgrimmar or Stormwind, you'll be guided to unlocking everything related to your Dragthier, your Visage, your capitals, your so on and so forth. Not to mention, you will also get an intro to the Shadowlands. Morgraine will let you know, like, listen, if you want, you can join the Shadowlands and see exactly what's cooking. And if you go to Morgraine, you'll even be able to skip if you've played with your main before. I don't know how this is for new characters, though. I would hope that even people who haven't played Shadowlands at all can still skip pretty much everything related to Shadowlands. If you cannot skip, you don't really have to do Shadowlands either. It does give you a little small boost, which is kind of inconsequential because it only lasts for 2 weeks. But if you do decide to go with the Shadowlands intro, once you talk to Morgraine, you can skip it, get ported straight into Oribos, and pretty much you'll have to choose between Threads of Fate and replay the story. If you want to play the campaign, for instance, if you haven't played Shadowlands, you might have to play the campaign, which, hey, if you want to play a little bit of story and you don't really care about Mythic Plus and raids endgame, you can definitely do that on your Evoker and see the quick and easy what was Shadowlands all about, and eventually go through all of the other zones. 2 weeks should be more than enough for you to like experience all the story in Shadowlands quick and easy, and you can even hop into an LFR here and there to see the raid and experience the story, which is, I guess, it's kind of cool for people who haven't played the expansion and just want to see what they missed, or maybe what they didn't miss. But if you do skip and you choose Threads of Fate, you will essentially get all the skips necessary, like all of your alts have done so far. You will get the Covenants, and we'll get into what Covenants you should pick, and you can get the Shadowlands, and you'll get the boon of the Covenants, Covenant ability, regardless of what Covenant you choose, which, if I'm not mistaken, it's for my preservation, because I mean, it heals when you activate. It's a 2-minute, you heal people, and you get a boost, 10% versatility boost for 12 seconds. Also, passively, for like forever, you just gain a boost of like 4% extra damage and healing, which you can augment with conduits. And now we go into the actual, let's say, talents and covenants section of all of this. Now, prefacing this, I do want to mention that Preheat has written an excellent devastation guide on Wowhead that you can check, where there's a lot of information and more advanced that we're going to cover here because we just want it to be quick and easy. And Voulk for preservation as well, also on Wowhead. The links will be in the description, and you can definitely recommend checking those out for more advanced and in-depth information on your Evoker depending on what spec you decide to play. But with that out of the way, a quick raid build which you can see right now on the screen is you just pick these talents. You can also copy paste the talent code, also going to be in the description down below or in a pinned comment. I think I'm probably going to put it in a pinned comment so that you can just copy paste your talent loadout and just paste it into the game directly, so you don't have to, you know, go individually and choose. All you can just look at, you know, the video and just pick the talents that you want. Obviously, we still recommend playing and experiments with everything, but you still don't have all of the points available to have like a complete build. So, you know, the budget builds, I suppose, what they're being called right now, these are it. Now, regardless of which spec you want to play, the Covenant that we recommend you guys take is Night Phase, specifically with Dreamweaver. Although Devastation, I think, can just go any Covenant that you want, so you can go ahead and just do it. However, I went Night Phase. I think Soul Shape is also easier to have, at least at the beginning, when you get used to your Evoker. Since even though you do have a bunch of mobility, I found that it's actually really helpful in getting used to the positioning and the mechanics, because you are at a different range than everybody else. And having that extra mobility that you don't necessarily have the talent into, for instance, you don't have the talent into 2 charges of hover. For extra mobility, you can still use the Soul Shape, which should be pretty well good enough for you to get used to the range of Evoker. That's definitely what we recommend you do. And of course, take Dreamweaver. Once you go through all the skips and unlocking all the soul binds, you'll get the 3 conduits as well. And conduit level doesn't matter for Evoker, from what I've been able to notice. I think this is pretty much intentional, so you're not incentivized to farm conduit eye levels, so they're still pretty much the same, even if they're 145 when you unlock them, or if you boost them up. Although you can actually go to in Orbos, next to the Flight Master, there's the vendor that gives you the conduit unlock for getting all your conduits at 200 eye level. You can buy that for like 500 gold, and once you use it next to your Forge Bonds, you can essentially get all your conduits up to 200 eye level. Which, that's not the important part. The important part is that unlocks all the other generic conduits as well, like Condensed Anima Sphere, which is probably going to be really good for, you know, for that endurance slot. And if you do this, you'll have all the conduits that you need. Even though you can still loot conduits at 278 eye level and so on, they will still have the exact same effect for Evoker, which is good because you don't have to farm them anymore, and that's fantastic. Now, when it comes to the legendary crafting, this is where you probably will have to rely a little bit on your alts or mains, or simply go into Torghast and farm those materials. Which, hey, if it's your first time playing Shadowlands, might as well give Torghast a chance and see what you have to. There are a bunch of very basic powers for Evoker that just flat out increase your damage and healing. Nothing really specific that you can get your hands on, but you can definitely see what Torghast is all about if you've never played it. If you do have a main or alt, you can just transfer resources. There are a couple of ways that you can do this. First of all, you'll probably have to start with Cosmic Flux for your main. With that Cosmic Flux, you can either transfer it directly through the Cosmic Flux bags that you can buy from the Zereth Mortis vendor and send it to your alt, to your Evoker. Or you can also buy, because obviously your Evoker will not have reputation, you can also buy the bags of legendary resources, which is 2000 Cosmic Flux. You might need more than one. You probably need 2 for 1 legendary, or 3 for both. And once you buy those, you can, you know, open them on your main. You'll get an influx of Soul Ash and Soul Cinders if you don't have them already. And then you can go to Korthia. Don't ask. We're leaving this behind. But you will go to Korthia, and I think Bonesmith Heimer is going to be the vendor that you will want. And then there you can buy little packs of Soul Ash and Soul Cinders, and then send them to your alt to craft your legendary, depending on what eye level you want, how much of these resources you need. Fair warning, the materials to craft your legendary are very expensive right now, because people are making money. All the Evokers want to make their legendaries right now, so they're probably going to be way more expensive. This is why it's not majorly important to get your legendaries, although you can get Unity, and it does give you a little boost. The major reason why you would want legendaries is so you can have a quick 291 eye level item for the pure stats. If you want to get it for the pure stats and money isn't a problem, you can just get it on whatever. You can put it on whatever slot. If 291 eye level is going to be high for you, depending on what you plan to do with your Evoker, maybe get something like a chest or a headpiece that has more raw stats, and then you can boost your character a little bit more. But if you do plan on doing some mythic rating and some plus 20s, which are particularly easier than they might sound, you can probably put them on rings and necks and stuff like that. You can just get the cheapest legendary material source out there because Unity can be crafted on all of your slots if you do have Unity, if you've played Shadowlands before. If you don't, you can do the Zeroth Mortis campaign and unlock the Memory of Unity, or at least unlock the belt, and then you don't have to pay for anything. You just have a legendary, but it's not going to be at 291 eye level. I think it's 265. And you can just use that, which is still a decent amount of eye level and power, or you can just ignore it. If you do want to min-max even more, you can craft a second legendary. And again, I preface this by saying that you'll probably just mostly want it for the eye level. And you can craft Echo of Eonar, which is good for both Devastation and Preservation. And again, you'll probably want it for the eye level, but you can definitely craft it if you want to. And you can just use those to get some eye level bump. And once you have all of this, once you're ready, once you've selected your talents, we can talk about the gearing process to fill your eye level in the rest of your armor slots. Now, there are definitely different things that you can do right now, depending on the eye level and your accessibility to the game and how many people you can play with, because obviously having a party of friends can definitely help you, since they'll likely be way more geared than you and they can help you go through the content a little bit quicker. However, first things first, starting from the eye level, the lowest eye level that you can get and the easiest to get is first the Zeroth Mortis Anima gear, which obviously you have to spend Anima, but you can, you know, send it from your main or buy it on your main, and it gives you 226 item level gear, which is the lowest that you can get. It's likely by doing the quests in Forbidden Reach, you'll have a couple of items that are way above this high level anyway, but hey, you can complete all of your missing slots with this. You can also get Sandworm Relic gear for 246. Sandworm Relics are the currency that you probably have farmed on your main and maybe even alts, and they are account bound. You can send them from your mains and alts and buy 246 high level gear. And now we get into the events for the Phase 2, which is probably what you'll be mostly interested in, since this is only going to last for 2 weeks, which is the Primalist Invasions, the storming primal thing, whatever. You'll have these events. We already had a video on it in our pre-patch guide, which I recommend you check after you watch this video. But if you go there and you do the content, you can essentially get the currency to buy 252 item level gear. You can also buy from the auction house a crafted item for 262 eye level that you can only have one of them, and they're likely going to be a little bit more pricey right now, since everybody just wants to gear their Evoker, so keep that in mind. Also, if you do the 20th anniversary for WoW, the world bosses in all of the content give you 272 eye level gear, which is also higher than everything so far, if you do want to go through that. Also, the Shadowlands world bosses give you 272, and they're all faded right now, or at least I think this is the non-faded one. I think the faded one give you 272, unless it's 265. Oh no, the faded one give you 285, because I know I got one just yesterday. So, yeah. You can also, by doing the quest line that I mentioned that you should be doing and finishing everything and prepping for Dragonflight, you will have a quest that will send you to Uldaman. And Uldaman has been a dungeon that we've been reusing for a long time, and it's been revised as well for Dragonflight, being one of the dungeons accessible in Dragonflight, also tied to the story of the new expansion. It will send you there, whatever quest. I'm not going to spoil the story, you can just do it on yourself, but the quest reward for that is 278 weapon, plus the dungeon itself on the normal difficulty, which is the only difficulty available, will give you 278 eye level gear, and that's a specific set that you can only get that gear from Uldaman. And you can spam that dungeon as much as you want from the LFG group finder, but be warned that everybody wants to do it, and there's so many DPSers, the queues might be long if you're not going to be healing on your Evoker. So keep that in mind once again. We mentioned the Legendaries having 291 eye level, and now you can, once you get all of this, if you still want higher eye level gear, you can start doing Mythic Plus, which from Mythic 0 all the way to Mythic 15, you get anywhere from 262 to 288 eye level gear, which obviously you can eventually bump up with Valor. However, do remember that in order to bump your gear with Valor, you will need, dungeon score, so you'll probably want to run through all of them as well. There's another caveat here with the Mythic Plus. Some dungeons, they haven't fixed it at this point as we're recording this video, but some dungeons are not accessible immediately after you've created your Evoker, because I think it's the Legion and the Warlords dungeon. So basically Karazhan, Grimrail, and Iron Docks, you cannot play them either on Mythic 0 or Mythic Plus, since the rule with the recently boosted characters cannot access Mythic content within the first 24 hours of them being boosted. So you'll not be able to do these. You'll probably want to do the other dungeons. If you have a group of friends with keys, you can just do their keys, or you can just look for keys in the group finder. You and the other 99% of the player base that is playing Evoker, because everybody and their mom are playing Evoker, because the class is actually really fun. Obviously, you can do some PvP, and the honor gear from PvP is from 229 to 268 eye level. You can also get binary account PvP gear for 275 eye level, Conquest PvP gear for 275 all the way to 301 eye level, and last but not least, raid BOEs. And the raid itself, the BOEs and the raid start with 265 eye level, the BOEs go all the way to 304, while the raid can reward you 311. Mythic, of course, but you'll probably want a guild for that. I don't know if people pug Mythic raids, they might, but hey, you can definitely get the gear from that. So this is kind of the extent of all of the gearing that you get. You can definitely beef up your Evoker with average involvement and a couple of keys ran on stream with the lovely chat. I managed to get my Evoker to like 252 eye level within the first day, and that's about, I don't know, 4 hours, 3 hours or 4 hours of gearing, right? Plus I've done the raid with my guild later in the night, but that's about it. With 3 hours, just chilling, just enjoying the Evoker, you can get to 250 at the very least, and 250 will be enough for you to join pretty much anything, especially the LFRs, which will award you higher and higher level gear, and then you can just work your way up from there. And last but not least, of course, we will not advise you to go with your Evoker out into the world without actually knowing how to play. And although we won't go into the details, a quick summary of the rotation that you want to play so that you know how the buttons work, although you can watch all of our videos and you can definitely read the more in-depth guides on Wowhead to understand your spec. So first of all, we're going to cover Devastation. So the general idea for Devastation, when you do play it, and if you do want to do the rotation properly, you want to, of course, start with your Boon of the Covenants and Dragon Rage as you go into the rotation. And you want to maintain Fire Breath on your enemies as much as possible and always cast it on cooldown. Very, very important. Also use Eternity Surge on cooldown, since you will probably have it if you've used the talents that we've advised you to use. Shattering Star as well, you want to use it on cooldown, and you can try to, optimize it with your Essence Burst procs, but you don't want to cap on essences as well with Devastation. And your Essence Burst will primarily be consumed on Disintegrate on 1 target or even 2 targets, and once you go from 3 and higher, you'll want to spend your Essence on Pyre. And of course, there's more going into the optimization of the spec, which we will not cover here, but in a future guide once the expansion is actually released. And you'll, normally fill your downtime with Living Flame in single target and Azure Strike in AoE, or in single target if you're moving, or anytime you're moving, really. They will essentially fill your rotation, plus they will proc that Essence Burst mechanic, which makes spending, or, casting Disintegrate or Pyre free of charge. And also with certain talent builds, depending on which one you've selected, that will also deal more damage, so you might want to prioritize that as well. Not to mention that during Dragon Rage, whenever you use either of the 2 abilities, you have a 100% chance of proccing that Essence Burst, so you will launch so many instant Pyres or instant Disintegrates, well, instant, but free rather, and have a lot of fun. When it comes to Preservation, the healing spec, it's a little bit more intricate. Sure, we all know that healer rotations are not, cut and dry like the DPS ones. However, a general consensus and a general feel of the rotation is, of course, you want to cast your Living Flame on the boss or on the target or on the enemies, so you can proc that Essence Burst. And, when the damage hits, you want to kind of spend your Essence Burst on Emerald Blossoms, 2 or 3, depending on if you have the Essence Burst proc or not, or just spend the Essence altogether on Emerald Blossom. However much Echo is so cool, you'll probably want to use it on Emerald Blossom, since it's probably better, at least in pre-patch. The biggest heal source that you probably will have is Dream Breath, which is actually really cool, is the healer breath. You can also cast Spirit Bloom as well when people take a lot of damage. Depending on how many targets are hit, you can channel it or, impart for a couple of more stacks. Not to mention, Fire Breath is also ideally used on cooldown, so you kind of want to use these impart spells on cooldown as much as possible. Obviously, don't overheal, because that's just silly. Reversion is also really good to keep on your target, so that, you get that passive healing overall, and that's pretty good, especially if you have crit. It obviously functions really well with crit. Verdant Embrace is going to be in all the builds, especially for Devastation, but for Preservation is more important. Not to mention, with the majority of the builds, Verdant Embrace is going to empower your Dream Breath, so you kind of want to use them in conjunction to get big heals. And if you do play the Raid build, you will also have Dragonflight, which is the cool fly your dragon and breathe green healing magic on everybody, which is particularly amazing. And if you cap it with rewind in raids, you'll do a lot of group healing, even if you are under level. It seems like the numbers are pretty high for Evoker. I haven't played or I am myself like a 300 level Evoker yet to see like what it does at, when I have the same gear as everybody else. But in terms of healing, I was able to do a decent amount of healing with being 40 or more eye levels lower than everybody else. So once you get enough gear, you'll do the decent numbers that you need to do the content that you want to do. And for both of the specs, during high octane situations or movements, you can use hover. Hover is the mobility ability, and you can also cast with it, except empowered spells. And that's about it. A quick note to all of this: you might encounter bugs. There are some bugs, known bugs. The devs know they're probably gonna fix them. Depending on when you watch this video, the bugs might already be fixed. But your buttons on your bars might turn gray, as in they're not accessible or they're not usable. They just look gray on your UI for whatever reason. This is, of course, if you're using the basic UI. I know that there's some more egregious bugs with LVUI and things like that, and for LVUI users, good luck to you. There's definitely people that have found fixes, and you can find them in the Discord communities, depending on where you reside in your WoW adventures. But this is it, a little bit on the longer side, but still we've covered 2 specs. And if you want to get your Evoker up and ready for pretty much everything, you can just do pretty much everything that we said in the video. I don't know if we've missed anything. If we did, you can definitely let us know in the comment section below and let people know how your success adventure has been with Evoker. And it has been so fun. With all the backlash that the class has gotten over the last couple of months, I think people are actually really enjoying it, and it's only gonna get better as you get used to playing it. So grab your Evoker, go out there, smash some bosses, smash some dungeons, do the events, get all your cool one-time goodies, and have some fun. Thank you for watching the video. Thank you, patrons, for supporting the content, and we will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.
I've been loving it then, I still love it now. Still, I play WoW. Still, I play WoW. Getting better every day, let me show you how. Cause still, I play WoW. Still, I play WoW. It's getting harder to stay, but at the end of the day, it's a guilty pleasure, so just log in and play. Whether it's classic or retail, I'ma do a /bow. Still, I play WoW.